Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today and making time for this super special invite-only premiere. You all are the very first in our community and network to see this film because you believed in this work and because you invested in it. So your support of the Farmers Land Trust has helped make this story, this moment, and all of this incredible, tangible, impactful change that's taking shape around the country possible. And we really would not even be here without you. And we're so grateful for your support that makes you part of our team. And that's why we wanted to make sure that you were the first in our community to get to see this. So today we are going to hear from some very important and special people. We have executive producers from BBC Studios, our senior creative producer from BBC Storyworks, the executive producer from Goodfellow, who is the videographer who captured this film, co-executive directors from the Farmers Land Trust, I am one of them, and the landowner that we are working with who is featured in this film, who is transferring her land into the Blue Rock Farmland Commons through a discounted sale. So today you'll hear from all of those people, and then we also will be able to share with you the series trailer and also the short film. So we're really excited to do all that and to dive in. So firstly, I would like to just introduce myself. My name is Kristina Villa, and I am the co-executive director of the Farmers Land Trust. I live in Middle Tennessee, and my husband and I steward 70 acres of land where we grow vegetables using organic and biodynamic methods and sell to restaurants, grocery stores, and other CSAs. We also have a herd of cattle where we do beef and raw milk sales, and it is through that struggle of being a young farmer that has really led me to this work, and I'm so honored to get to be part of it. We are going to have time for question and answer at the end, so please hold all of those till the end and or put them in the chat as we go, and I'm going to pass it to Ian.
Thank you, Kristina. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Really so grateful to have this time together, so grateful to share this story with all of you and for all of your support and engagement in this work. Any times, especially now, building stories of hope, building kind of opportunities to live into something new is so critical and so deeply needed. So appreciate all of you for being here and our time together.
Thank you. Annie, would you like to give a short personal introduction?
I would love to. I'm Annie Warmke, a farmer, an activist, a social entrepreneur, and work that I do is vital to my existence. In 1993, Jay and I set out to buy land in my native Ohio. And we really didn't know what we were doing, except that we wanted to create something that would be great for our family, but also have an impact in the Ohio eastern foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. And so the week that our granddaughter was born, we bought 40 acres, and we called it 40 acres and a mule, surrounded by reality. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So since leaving Blue Rock Station, and I'm still all those things I said in my first sentence, I've been developing an urban food forest garden, and I will continue to steward and organize people and land and critters and the humans I love. And I'm super glad to be here today and extremely grateful to all of you. And I'll talk about more of that later.
Thank you, Annie. Laura, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. I'm Laura Abrahams. I was honoured to be the senior creative producer on this lovely film and work on the series. It was so enjoyable to work with everyone, honestly, from the start. Ian and Kristina couldn't have been more cooperative, and obviously Annie too was a joy, and I'll talk more about that, I think, in depth a bit later. And yeah, I was really excited and pleased to be asked to be part of today's panel. So thank you very much for having me. I've got lots of things that I look forward to sharing with you.
Thank you. Would you like to share where you're calling in from?
Oh yes, I work at the BBC Storyworks in the UK. So yeah, we're a few hours ahead of those of you calling in from the States, as is my colleague Ashraf, who I think Kristina's going to throw to next.
Thank you, Laura. Nick, actually, is it okay if you go next?
Yeah, sure thing. So my name is Nick Ingram. I'm one of the founders and executive producers at Goodfellow. We're a video production company based in Nashville, Tennessee. A lot of our work kind of gravitates towards branded content, and it's generally focused on people and place and meaning. So the film felt like a really good fit. And we've collaborated a lot with BBC Storyworks over the past 5 years or so. We've made around 60 or so of these short films. And this one was one of my favorites. So I'm excited to be here.
That is so sweet. Thank you so much. All right. And then Ashraf, we'd love to hear from you. And if you want to dive in and just get started after your personal introduction, that would be great.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Kristina. And hello, everybody. It's lovely to meet you all. And honestly, when Kristina and Ian asked us to join this event, we were very happy to celebrate in the success of the film and success of the reach, and to really talk about our partnership together. I'm the executive producer of the series that this film is part of that has just launched on bbc.com. And I'm working on a team with Laura, who's just spoken, at BBC Studios. So we are the commercial arm of the BBC. And we're really drawing on a pedigree of storytelling. We like to really say that we've got 100 years of storytelling experience as an organization, where we really look at the best ways to tell stories that are authentic, that are cinematic, that sing the praises of people, that are human-led, that look at people at the core of our stories. And so when we approach films, that's really the guiding that's our guiding star when we tell our stories. And we've really tried to do that with this film and bring everything to life through Annie and her husband, and really show the value that they brought to the project. So BBC Storyworks is a branch of BBC Studios. So we don't want to, we always say we're not the news, so we're not BBC News, we're separate. And the reason why we're separate is because we are partnering with organizations like the Farmers Land Trust to create branded content. And we do that in strong partnerships, looking at ways we can tell stories together. And we develop a really long relationship in the end with our partners. I mean, with Farmers Land Trust and with Annie, and it was spanned months. So we really invest a lot of time with our partners, understanding what they want, what drives them, what their key messages are, and what really matters to them. And that relationship that was built over the months with Laura, you can see it come to fruition in the film when we'll watch it later. And we really believe investing that time at the very beginning really pays off, because you sort of live and breathe week to week. Basically, the content, the ideas, the passion, all of that kind of stuff. I can talk a little bit about the series that the film is part of. It's called Unearthing the Future, and we've been really excited about launching this series. And we've done it in association with the Lexicon of Food, which is really an organization that focuses on food systems, the importance of creating, distributing healthy, sustainable food that's kind to the environment. And this film really sits in that series very, very organically, in the sense that it's about land and the importance of land and the importance of preserving it and passing it from generation to generation, person to person, with respect And so it really sits very authentically within that series. Generally with the series, and I hope you'll get to see the website once at the end of this discussion. It's lovely. It covers a lot of lovely topics. We're looking at the ideas of reawakening food and how food production can be reimagined to promote more biodiversity, better regeneration, looking at where our food comes from, focusing on innovation, restoring tradition in agriculture and aquaculture. And then we're looking at stuff like scaling resilience, which is sort of the environmental toll that food supply chains can have on the environment, and understanding how we can reduce those things. So we're looking at less food waste, resource-intensive food production. And also we're looking at education, behavioral change, and how access to food can be improved, and that in turn improving health outcomes. So that's the totality of the series. I'm not sure where I am now in what I'm supposed to talk about, but
yeah, that was great. Thank you. If you feel good, if you want to share anything else, please do. Otherwise, this seems like a good segue. All right, I will go ahead and share now with everyone the trailer for this series of Unearthing the Future. So I will pull that up and we can watch the trailer.
What does food mean to me?
Food is family.
Food is a social thing. It is just like the spice of life.
Our cows have, in essence, a giant salad bar. It's really improved our soils.
I get to watch this plant grow from just this tiny little seed all the way until the produce that I'm going to eat.
I feel really at peace when I'm cooking.
We use biotechnology to make food in a different way.
I feel like I'm making food better.
When I see children having trays piled with plates of beautiful food, that makes my heart sing.
It reminds me that my grandma's cooking.
Now that we've seen what we can do, this is just the beginning.
So that is the trailer for this series. And next, it was very inspirational. Holy cow, I cannot wait to show you guys the main film that we're featured in. Okay. Laura, would you like to share more next?
Absolutely, I'd love to. So yes, as the senior creative producer on the series, I was also, I was going to say tasked with, but it was a joy with making that series trailer that you just saw. And just to give it a little bit of context, I should probably tell you that it included a clip from each film in the series, and what I tried to do was make sure it kind of showcased the connection between food and the land. And I hope it did that. We used the fonts from the series as transitions, and we had lovely sound bites. But as you may be aware, Annie featured in that trailer, and of course she's the star of the show, along with Ian and Kristina, in the film that we're kind of here to talk about today, the Farmers Land Trust film. So right from the beginning, it was really clear that the Farmers Land Trust, having engaged with our submissions and kind of compliance vetting process, were wonderful candidates to cover in our creative content. And so I had an initial, what we call a kind of pre-production meeting call, where we always ask our partners in films to complete something we call a creative questionnaire, which they've done, and that kind of helps us dial down to kind of what the primary message is. And for this film, having spoken to Ian and Kristina, I was very aware that the purpose and the message was to spread awareness of the Farmlands Commons model and explain its benefits. And I wanted to convey along with them that it could be an option for landowners, farmers, communities, and people who are keen to support innovation in how farmland is owned, and also sort of and how stewardship can kind of be shared and passed along. So that was kind of, and I'm happy to sort of talk more about that if anyone has questions towards the end. So that was kind of, we discussed what was important to them in terms of the messages. And I knew right from the beginning that they'd proposed Blue Rock Station as the I guess, the location and the kind of spine for the film and its narrative. So we obviously then, I booked in a call with Annie, who also couldn't have been more collaborative and understanding and happy to kind of engage with us in our process. Oh, I possibly should have said sooner. We work to a 14-week schedule when we make films here. So the first meeting I would have had with Ian and Kristina would have been at kind of week 0. And then we would have had regular weekly meetings, 6 or 7 weeks until the film shoot, which wonderful Goodfellow, I'll come back to them in a bit, we're involved in. And then we have a post-production period after the shoot where we edit the film and have Farmers Land Trust feedback on it and make tweaks and so on. So that's a kind of overview. But I just wanted to say, sort of on the subject of crews, that, you know, as BBC Storyworks, we always seek to use crews around the world who really understand our work and make compelling content. And so I obviously, once I'd spoken to Ian and Kristina, I was thinking, who are the kind of crew for this? I spoke to Ashraf, my exec, and as this series was an Albert series, which I will be explaining, which means it's going to be a sustainably produced series, and I'll explain that more in a bit. I wanted to also find a crew who would be able to drive to the location, and lo and behold, I feel like there should be a kind of drum roll now. There was just no doubt once I'd spoken to some of my colleagues in Ashraf and garnered kind of feedback that Nick Ingram and his colleague Chris from Goodfellow, based 6 hours drive away, if I got that right, Nick, in Nashville, Tennessee, were the perfect kind of pairing with this film. And they just have a really deep commitment to the kind of craft of filmmaking. They've made many successful films for us at Storywork, but also just from the first conversation I had with them, and I talked to them about it, they were filled with creative ideas, which, you'll see in the film. We saw a little bit of in the trailer where they wanted, I don't want to be a spoiler for you, Nick, so I won't say
fine.
more.
Spoiler alerts are great.
So he had lots, you had the idea, Nick, of using Super 8 film to kind of help give a sense of kind of the history and the time that Annie and Jay had been on the farm. And whilst, that had a kind of timeline implication, because it takes a while to get developed and stuff, but, it worked out, and it worked out magnificently, I feel, in the film. And I will let Nick talk about that and their other lovely ideas. But yeah, they were great. They were on the calls with us, with Annie and Jay as well. And with that, yeah, that's right. Sorry, with Annie, and as well as Ian and Kristina. Just so they really had a full understanding of what the contributors wanted to say, and then worked with me really, really collaboratively in shaping the structure. In fact, I'm going to be really honest and say I learned some things about telling stories here at BBC Storyworks that are entirely due to them. My background is as a documentary and factual television producer for the BBC and other public service broadcasters here in the UK. And yeah, I learned from them. I don't know what they learned from me, possibly how to understand me speaking really fast, maybe. But yeah, so one of the things we do here that Nick and Chris are super familiar with is we do something called solution-focused storytelling. And kind of what that means is we like to present a kind of, a challenge. And then over the course of the 5 to 6 minute film, the solution, present a kind of constructive approach to improving it. And also the impact, kind of, we want to demonstrate the tangible real world kind of results of that storytelling approach. And I think in this case, the scarcity of farmland and then a potential solution in the form of the Farmland Commons and Farmers Land Trust work was really clear. So, so we decided, obviously, we were going to film in southeastern Ohio at Blue Rock Station, and that the best person to illustrate the work of the Farmers Land Trust for this film was Annie, who'll be speaking as well in a bit. And the best time to do this was interesting, actually. This was during goat stock. I think it's annual celebration of their land that happened in July each year. And as I recall, that date was probably a bit sooner than our usual kind of 6-week timeline for making films. But actually, again, another sort of shout out to everyone, Annie and Jay, probably a lot of behind the scenes people I don't know, Ian and Kristina, Nick and Chris at Goodfellows, you know, everyone kind of came together to get this to happen, you know, a bit sooner than we might normally have done that. So that was great. And during that time, I created a treatment along with Goodfellow, which had a kind of description of what we would hear and what we might see in the film, key shots that we wanted to capture, and pieces of interview from Ian and Kristina to help explain the Farmers Trust Land work, so that we could best deliver their message to our audience. I'm sorry if I'm talking too long, Kristina. Do feel free to shut me up. I've got a bit more, if that's okay. No, I'm okay. Good. So actually, and this was really interesting. It was quite dynamic. You know, after we sort of learned about Annie's story and why she wanted to create the Blue Rock Farmland Commons to transition the land into a non-profit trust entity to protect it, we had some conversations about finding a land steward to take on a long-term lease. And I don't think that this was necessarily part of the kind of initial conversations we had, but yeah, as the time developed, we kind of, you know, dynamically kind of altered our shooting script to allow for us to, you know, meet a land steward within the scope of the film. And that really, for me, was wonderful, because it meant, you know, you could kind of see the process happen. And I hope you'll agree when you see the film. It also gave us like a really authentic human experience to hear from the people at the heart of the story, which is really important to us. The shoot at Goatstock, which Ian and Kristina were there for, during Goatstock at Blue Rock Station, took 2 days, which is what we always like to do. We like to film our BBC Storyworks films over a consecutive 2-day shoot period with a small and agile crew. And Nick and Chris shot the film, which I'll talk more about. And then, as far as I'm concerned, the edit begins. And that takes another number of weeks, where we kind of try and kind of get the audio kind of down, who's going to say what when, and then we kind of add pictures and music and to develop a rough cut. We run it through our compliance team here, then it's viewed by Ian and Kristina, and we had feedback, and then we share a substantiation document. You know, that's something we do again for all of our films, because as being part of the BBC, we have to have really robust evidence for any claims made in the film. I think Ian gives a couple of like statistics over the course of the film, so those, you know, are rigorously fact checked. And I have to say, Ian and Kristina, I don't know if anyone in my experience has been better and quicker and more thorough at doing that substantiation document than you guys. I think you may have even done it before the film, like the shoot. It was incredible. So yeah, that was really wonderful. So I hope this is kind of really clear that actually I feel we all work together really harmoniously, and I don't say this to everyone, I promise. I would just say nothing, to create what is really a really wonderful kind of upbeat film, which you'll be seeing, not quite yet, but soon. Because before then, I'm going to talk a little bit about Albert, which is our kind of industry standard environmental certification, which I think has a relevance to, I guess, our work and this series, and not only the series, but also the Farmers Land Trust. So Albert, which is a strange name, and I can't actually remember what the letters stand for. It's really a toolkit for production teams to kind of measure and reduce and certify the carbon footprint of all of our productions, because it's really important to us that we try to lower our emissions as an organization without negatively impacting the quality of our content. So not luckily my job, but the job of a member of the production management team, who's provided me with lots of helpful information to share some of this with you. They basically taught me through how it works. They have something called an Albert carbon calculator, and when they start up production, they start a carbon action plan to identify what steps they can go through to reduce any emissions. And we have some really, and then they sort of throughout the whole process, you know, they're asking Nick and Chris to enter data to measure the carbon footprint, and then they submit that evidence to Albert to review. And then Albert kind of verifies what we've done and takes evidence. And then they give us a kind of mark, like a 1, 2, or 3 star rating. And actually, we did brilliantly across the series. Our entire carbon offset cost for the whole series, which had 8 or 9 pieces of content, was only 32 English pounds. I think that's about $50 American. We didn't fly anyone anywhere across the entire production. It was a really team-wide effort. And on the specific Farmers Land Trust film, it was really incredible. You know, Nick and Chris provided all their transport details, accommodation bookings, down to kind of what meals they had. I think they vegetarian food. And yeah, they drove to Ohio, they didn't fly. Solar powered energy was sourced on location. Again, that rechargeable batteries only. We did only digital data transfer, so no shipping of hard drives. So we managed, when we submitted the footprint, we managed to get a really high 2 out of 3 stars, 82% certification score, which is just off the 85% mark you need for a 3-star review. So it was super close, but that's really amazing. I think that's one of our kind of best results. So that's kind of how we achieved that. And I hope that was of interest. And that, I think, Kristina, concludes me talking. As I say, it's, I hope I haven't taken up too much airtime.
Laura, you are the best.
The opportunity. Thank you.
Are the best. Thank you. Thank you so much for all you shared. You shared such great process details of how the film came to be and what the steps were along the way. And it is just reminding me of the weekly meetings that we would have. And yeah, it was just so great. Thank you so much for all you shared. And so next, before we watch the film, Nick, would you like to share more about your on-site experiences, maybe some aspects that were unique and exciting about Blue Rock Station? I think you maybe have some pictures of behind the scenes you can share. Yeah, it would be great to hear from you next.
Absolutely. Yeah, so before I talk about Blue Rock Station, I just want to acknowledge the work that the Farmers Land Trust is doing just more broadly. I think when we first heard about it, we thought it was just a super cool, interesting concept. We're also in the Middle Tennessee area, not too far from Kristina. And it's, you know, something that we can see playing out day to day, right? The challenge that they're facing with farmland essentially going to developers. And just the whole model of the Farmland Commons and moving into long-term stewardship felt really important for just the future of farming. It felt like a really unique idea. So yeah, at the end of the day, this whole film exists to highlight the incredible work that they're doing. So I just wanted to chat about that. But Blue Rock Station, what made that so interesting and compelling to us is that it's not a theoretical example, right? I think with a lot of the Farmland Commons work, it would be easy to sit here and talk about how it could work, right? But this was an actual example of you know, a real place that was built over decades, that was standing at a moment of transition, right? It was asking what's next, what's going to happen. So it wasn't just a plan on a piece of paper. It was a real, authentic experience. And actually, while we were there, they were chatting through, you know, the actual question of who is going to steward the land next. So it felt very real, you know, and I hope that comes across in the film as well. But yeah, so as filmmakers, we look for stories that are specific. You know, it's a very specific experience and a very specific person's story, but things that feel universal, right? So it feels like it's relating to a broader problem. And so this wasn't necessarily just about farmland or food systems. It was really about like what happens to a place that you've poured your whole life into. You know, it was really about like legacy and transition and what that looks like. And you know, speaking of Blue Rock, it doesn't necessarily like feel like a static location. It feels very like real and organic and very much like a living organism. You know, it's a little bit slower pace than what I'm used to in Nashville, being in the city. You know, it's very intentional and very deeply connected to food and the environment around it. Yeah, like right when we got there, we had a moment. I have a picture of it, but we kind of had a moment. I think we were one of the first people there. There's people kind of camped out around the site, and we just had a moment to soak in the environment a little bit. Yeah, it was just a beautiful location. But yeah, I have in here in my notes, it was actually the first shoot that I've ever been on that did not have flushable toilets. So that was a unique experience. But yeah, I think that the main thing is like, you know, a lot of what we do in documentary filmmaking is we're explaining an event that happened, right? It's something in the past that we're reliving. But I think the beautiful part about this is it's not something that had already happened. It was like we were present during the moment of transition. So, I think you can feel some of that uncertainty and hope and, trust in what's happening next through the film. And through the process, we really just tried to let Annie's voice shine, tried not to over-explain anything and let the film flow with just real moments that were happening. But yeah, overall, it's just a film about talking about legacy and what's happening next in regards to the farm and to the food. And, I think the beautiful thing is it's not necessarily like a finished story. It's really like the beginning of a whole new chapter for the land. So, super grateful to have been involved in the project in such an important moment too in Blue Arc Station. So hopefully the film reflects all of that.
Do you want to share some behind the scenes photos?
I do. One second here.
I'm so excited to see these. I mean, I was there, but I'm so excited to see them.
Okay. So yeah, this is kind of just a slideshow of all this stuff, but several different photos here.
Aw, I should go on mute. Sorry, you can explain them. I'll go on mute.
No, I mean, I think they're all pretty self-explanatory. It's like, this is the interview setup that we had throughout the film. Again, more kind of just behind the scenes photos of what it was like. Just filming some exteriors here. This was the interview with the new land stewards. This is kind of what I'm talking about here is like, this was somewhat staged. It was like, oh, we want to have a meeting inside the house because we'd love to show off the Earthship. I think it was a beautiful building. And we were like, what can we have you guys talk about that was real? And they actually started talking about things like paperwork and contracting and bylaws. And it was a very real moment, so just getting to see that. And it was not like a staged conversation. It was real and what was actually happening. Here was the meeting where they were talking about the new land stewards. Super interesting to be there and to be involved in that. This is me and Ian.
Sorry, can you go back to the last one you were just at? Because this is such a moment where this was not planned at all. This was supposed to be just deeper conversation and interviews with these possible next generation stewards. And the decision was not supposed to be made in that moment. But then the way that things played out, the decision was made in that moment when we were all there and the cameras were rolling, and it was so impromptu and it was so authentic, but it also just could not have been more perfect for that moment. And it was something we thought was going to be the selection process. This moment ended up turning into a celebration of this next chapter and finding the next steward, and to be able to incorporate that into this film was just such a beautiful, wonderful experience and moment. So yeah, this was, whoa. Okay, thank you. I'm going back on mute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with all that. And glad you provided the context, because I think that side of the story doesn't necessarily make it into the film because it's a super short film, and it was just a lot of context to try to add in to explain that to the viewer. So I'm glad we got to explain it on the front end as well.
Nick, I just want to add one thing. That picture says it all, because I could be silly and say I planned the whole thing, but the people who are sitting in this place right there, almost all of those people are our community. Yes, there are many all over the world, but these are the hardcore, and they were there and they were a part of it, and they had been a part of how we got to even vet the people. And so they're also very excited because I told them after I saw the film that they were all in the film. So they're very excited about they're going to be rock stars, they said. But this is the community. This is what the film is really about. It's not just the work that I've done or that we dreamed of and made happen. It really is about those people who are sitting there.
Yeah, I love that. A couple more behind the scenes photos, me and Ian kind of trudging along, making up a scene. Oh, this was great. I love this one because we waded through these like waist high weeds here, and then we got way back in the woods here and then decided that it wasn't usable and that we needed to go somewhere else. So it was a big waste of time, but Yeah, that's what happens in the documentary process. You just try things and sometimes it doesn't work. There's Roger. This was the photo I was talking about right when we first got there. It was just a beautiful spot. It was early in the morning. This was a photo from goat stock. And that's it.
Aw, thank you so much for sharing that, Nick.
No
and yes, to your
problem.
question, Laura, it was so insanely hot. And Nick and Chris were such troopers carrying around all this equipment and doing all the filming. And I thought I was going to have sunstroke, and I'm used to being outside. It was very hot. Yeah.
It was very hot.
Nick, would you like to share anything else about the filming or editing process? And next we'll dive in and watch the film.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that pretty much covered it. I mean, it was a great experience being there in person. Very hot, as you said. I think goat stock was a great moment to have because it just felt, I think especially with the context that Andy just gave of that conversation of the new stewards, I think it really made goat stock feel very cathartic. You know, it felt like a celebration. Obviously, it was going to be a celebration either way, but felt even more so like a celebration and kind of like, you know, really like the opening to a new chapter. So it was great to be there. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to share.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, happy
so
to
much.
answer any questions at the very, very end as well.
Yes. Okay. So next I'm going to share my screen and we will watch the video and then we'll hear from Annie. And then we can open it up to questions, conversation, reflection.
I've been walking to this place all my life. I've seen this place in my mind a million times, and I knew exactly when I got here that this is where I was supposed to be. And I looked at Jay and I said, let's write the check. Blue Rock Station, it's really about happiness, and how do you create that? It's about the building you live in, it's about the land, it's about everything. I created the world that I want to live in, and all I can do is create that within the boundaries that I have in my life, and that's how it started. Food has been the center. My goal from day one was to have simple food. We've been fortunate in our management of our 34 acres of forest land. But if you just come and we have herbs, and we've grown all kinds of things. We started establishing a food forest, and we harvest food from there. All right, did everybody get a chance to cut some of the mint? Smells pretty good. You can taste it while you work. It's really intense. And we have always taught people how to make things with them. My happiest moments are when everybody's in the kitchen and we're all gathered around and everybody's working on food.
All right, and it's done.
From the beginning, I thought I would be buried here. We didn't ever think we would sell the land, but then I broke my leg and I had to learn to walk again. It became clear that we were going to need to leave Blue Rock Station. But what's going to happen to the land? Selling the land on the open market is definitely not Annie and Jay's style.
I grew up in an urban setting in a food insecure household, and we really struggled with where our next meal was going to come from. I started realizing that growing our own food could be a way to make sure that we had access to food at all times. But when I was ready to become a farmer, I realized that I couldn't afford land.
Farmland in the U.S. is at a point of multiple crisis and collapse. On average, farmland values across the United States have appreciated upwards of 40%. Farm income hasn't kept up. There's a generation of young farmers ready to step onto the land, and yet farmland is out of reach. Farm businesses are unaffordable. Farms are closing and farmland is being lost in communities across the United States. What we need is new models.
Give some time to share about this, right?
The Farmers Land Trust protects and transitions farmland through the Farmland Commons model, which is a nonprofit entity which places land out of private ownership and into community ownership.
We take in donations of land and we raise money to acquire land at a discounted price.
And I know what needs to happen, and if they decide
We work with landowners who can donate land, or in this case with Blue Rock Station, what they have done is given the Farmers Land Trust an option to purchase their land. So, and what I mean by
The people from the Farmers Land Trust, they're authentic. They have an honesty and a transparency. I've been involved in every aspect of how we move forward.
Once land has been acquired, we lease that land out to a next generation farmer. They can either pass that lease on or they can sell their lease to a next generation in order to exit. The lease is really unique in many ways, one of them being that the cost is far below market value.
A barrier to anyone who's going into farming is you're going to be in debt. Our dream is having land and being able to know where my food comes from. What the Farmers Land Trust does is it takes out that obstacle so you can make the decisions that are the right decisions for your family and for your community.
So this is where Quinn and I started working. What Annie and Jay have done to this site is just tremendous, and it's been what we've envisioned ourselves living. We want to continue all of that love and energy that Annie and Jay have poured into Blue Rock Station.
As of yesterday, we have the right family. They have all the resources they need to make a living. They really do. And they have the right attitude. My grandma, she said, if you have land, you are the richest person on earth. If we get this right, guess what happens? Everybody wins.
Well, it is such an honor to be able to share this first with all of you all who are supporting the Farmers Land Trust and who have supported us in being able to do this work and being where we are now. And I'm just so grateful for this moment and for this opportunity and for this beautiful film and for all of the people we get to work with, and mostly for all the people who donate, contribute, and support this organization and the people doing this. And so thank you all so much. Annie, it would be great to hear from you next.
So I'm feeling, I need a second. I appreciate so much, and I'm going to talk about that. I don't want to start my conversation that way, but Nick and all the people working on this, I just appreciate what you've captured. Just the culture, the nature, the heart. Anyway, I will start by saying that when Ian and Kristina told me about the BBC film opportunity, I was in a restaurant and I immediately thought they were making it up. I thought they were like, I'm not allowed to cuss. They were, they were making it up. Ian said I can't cuss. And anyway, it turned out it was real, and I was over the moon about it because I love the BBC. We lived in England, and it was our good TV station. The crew was so great with everybody, explaining what they needed, creating safe feeling situations, because not everybody, especially our new farmers, are not used to film or anything like that, and they immediately cannot forget that they're on film. And Nick and everybody was great, and plus they accepted my food. I was constantly, I sent them home with care packages. I was like, no, you can't go, you don't have food. Anyway, they listened to my ideas, which was great for me because I do have experience in this kind of marketing, and I knew what I wanted to be. And when they asked the worst question possible, and I don't want to even remember what it was, I'm already struggling emotionally with this, and I cried really hard, and so they gave me time. They were respectful, and they rephrased the question that I was able to answer it. that's just one example of how great they are to work with. People often ask, what's the reason that you're doing this? It doesn't make sense. Our friends we have several friends who are quite wealthy. They think this is insane. Like, wait a minute, this is a lot of money here, and you're just going to give most of it away. You're going to give away the equipment, and you're going to give away everything it takes to start over, and the land. Oh, come on, Annie, you and Jay are losing it. And I just feel like this is exactly what we should be doing. We never planned to sell Blue Rock Station. From the day I walked onto the land, and I talk about this in the film, that this is where I was going to be the rest of my life. I was walking to that place all of my life, and every day, and I do not exaggerate, I would have a moment, maybe walking back from the barn or milking goats or hanging out with Norman, the livestock guardian dog. Or I would say, I'm so lucky to do this. Not that I have to do it, that I get to be the steward, that I get to be the person that gets to be just one part of this. And if I get my job right, the bugs will do their job, the critters will do their job, the humans I love will be good, they will be safe, and I just get to be one part of that. So I obviously did not want to stop being that person, but I had to learn to walk again. And that changed everything for me. But I had a lot of amazing things happen before that. I am a social entrepreneur, I'm a businesswoman. I'm always planning. And so I thought, someday I might want to pull Warmke Farm away from Blue Rock Station. So again, this wasn't about I'm going to get hurt and I got to leave. I just was looking for a bit of an insurance policy because I never wanted to stop being a farmer. And when I met Ian online, it was, I think, about right before COVID. It might have been right at the beginning of COVID. I met him on a webinar, and I just knew immediately, that's what I'm going to do, because we have no loved one to pass it forward to. We have no former interns that would be interested in taking it on. And there's just no way we're not going to sell this land. It's too important. What we've done here is too important. And this is not us being, oh, aren't we great? It's us being humble and saying we've had this great responsibility, and now we're going to do something even more with that responsibility. We're going to take this tool that's in our toolbox and we're going to make it a more powerful tool, a stronger tool, a tool that kicks ass in our culture. And we're thinking, how do we do this? And here comes Ian with a big voice, Ian who has this demeanor that he knows things. And so well, that's important. You want to trust people, and this world's full of grifters all the way from the top to the bottom. So anyhow, I, in the meantime, had formed a farm board of our former interns. We have over 100, but we have many that are extremely loyal and come back twice a year, and some of them were there at Goatstock in the film. And they came on board. We had a Zoom meeting, which Zoom was pretty new, and it was awkward. And Ian came and talked at one of these webinars, and the interns were like, oh my God, they started crying, Annie's going to die. And I'm like, well, not today. I believe in planning. I believe in creating a sense of, okay, I can walk with confidence and boldness, and I can't do that if I think this thing that's the most important thing I could imagine, besides my husband and my dogs, it's got to be safe. And it's safe because you all love this land as much as me, and you're willing to make the right decision. And you don't even need me to be here, because you've lived with me, you've put up with me, I'm in your head for the rest of your life. And so now you can just do it. You don't even need me. So we decided, after I broke my leg, that we would have everybody come to Goatstock. And that was the year before we made this film. And they met Kristina and Ian, and Kristina had come on board then. And she's a rock. She just is endless energy, got it together. I would trust her with anything. And I felt like that almost immediately. And this is not something I do lightly in my life. I might have 10 people that I would list that I could think of in that way. And Ian and Kristina are on the list. This is important because if you cannot trust to make these kinds of decisions and also put trust in young people to make these kind of decisions, you know, you got to ask yourself, what kind of life do you have? You're not looking for the right people. And I'm always looking, I always think anybody I meet is going to be my friend automatically. And mostly they're not, because I don't want them to be. I'm like really critical. Anyway, so we came together and we started to put together what we were going to do. And we, you know, I mean, to me, this was an opportunity to ignite agriculture, to get the fire under everybody's body and say, look, we have to make change. And if we have the tools to do it, and we own land or we manage land, we can make revolution. And I don't use that word lightly, but this is revolution. And I get to use the resources that I have worked on for decades to a higher calling than what I was capable of. And I was capable of a lot, you know, thousands of people came to see this building that I made out of trash. The first open house I had, it had boards across the front, and my husband was coming from some other country to visit me. And we just had the walls and the roof on. And I wanted to demonstrate to him that we had something powerful and that we might never even be able to live in the house, which he said he didn't want to hear that. So I had an open house, and the guys who worked for me came, and we were on the front page of the paper that day. Just said, you know, house of trash, woman builds house of trash. 450 people showed up in the middle of Egypt, basically. And then I said, I'm on to something, and there's no stopping me. So that's how it became reality for me. 450 people had no idea. They were like, look at those tires, you know, they look pretty good. Could I have a couple of those? And I was like, hey, have at it. You know, we're here as a demonstration to reality. That's where the 40 acres and a mule surrounded by reality. They were my reality. Anyway, I want to say that for me, the most powerful thing is not, oh, any one Warmke, the bold, confident woman who does these outrageous things and somehow they make change. They have a domino effect. This is the truth. And they suddenly engage lots of people. You know, it doesn't happen all at once, but it does happen. This is me saying that the work that we do is not just the land, it's a resource. It's making community, it's bringing people together, and it's saying that is the tool that we create for safety. That is the tool that we create to make sure that we live a life that's filled with goodness and kindness. And it costs us nothing but to take the risk. So I've been a risk taker, but all of you have too. Guess what? You're sitting here today because somehow you saw the value of what little fragment of something Laura threw in, or Nick threw in, or Ian threw in, or Kristina, or any of those wonderful people that are in the video. Sarah and Jason and Cora and Corbin, that's the new family. We're all making this investment in some form or fashion as this agricultural revolution begins. And you are the pioneers. We're forever grateful to you. All of us that are sitting here today where you can see our pictures, we are grateful to you for your willingness to be on this journey with us. And guess what? We're not letting go of you, because you now have found safety. You now have found a certain sense of protection, because you can come into this community and we're going to say, oh, don't do that, or that's a great idea. How can we network and support you? And that's what you're doing, not just financially. We very much appreciate every penny, every drop of rain that's leaking fills the bucket. We all know how that works. And so every drop that you give us, or big, small, indifferent. Maybe you even have something that you want to sell, like a car or a truck, and you can donate it. And we have a way for that to go and make money. But we also know from your emails and your texts that you have joined us in many other ways now. And in our future work, you plan to be there. It's just been amazing. And so I say with a grateful heart, how much I care about what we're doing, and also Blue Rock Station, but also even my own future and the things that I'm working on around food and sovereignty of food access. And I need you. I need all of you. And we need all of you. So don't think that just because you wrote a check or used your credit card that it's over with us, because we need each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you so much, Annie. It is such an honor to get to work with you. And so just to catch everyone up, so Annie and her husband are selling the farm to the Farmers Land Trust at a very much discounted, significantly discounted sale rate. They're donating over $150,000 worth of the farm value. And this is allowing them to have an equitable exit out and transition that next generation farm family in, who you saw in the film. And I just want to open it up. Do Ashraf, Laura, Nick, Ian, do you all have anything else you want to add before we open up just a few minutes of question, answer, discussion, reflections? No? All right. We have time for just a couple of reflections or questions from the people who are attending and with us today. Does anyone have anything that they want to ask anybody on the panel or share in reflection or conversation?
I just want to ask that I know that in those 14 people that are not where we can see their pictures that I saw as they were coming in, there are some people that have had a long history with Blue Rock Station, and I would really love it if you would say something about your own experience or about why you decided to contribute in some way. It doesn't even have to be financially, but just all of you have contributed so much. You have to go off mute to do it, though.
Okay, well, while people are thinking and potentially going to ask a question or share a reflection, I want to go ahead and share that the Unearthing the Future series is live on bbc.com. And if you go to this website, you can see it. And if you scroll down, all of the episodes, including the one that you just saw, is live on this webpage of the bbc.com. And also of the Lexicon of Food. So the series is also live on Lexicon of the Food. There's Willow, Annie's niece. And if you scroll down, they've actually have the episode featuring Annie as the very first one that you get to come to and see. So those are live and available for you to watch and share and see. And again, we're so honored to get to share this with you all first. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey with us, being a part of our team in this way, and supporting our work. It's so meaningful. Brian, yes.
Hello, beauties. It's so cool. This is really just a lovely thing. I'm curious, Annie and associated Blue Rock folks, how you chose the farmers that you chose to succeed you. Like, what were the factors that went into that incredibly important decision?
That is a great question. Thank you. And actually, there's a Central State webinar series that the fourth part will be in February, and that is what that hour-long session will focus on. So Annie and also one of her farm advisory board members will be sharing all about the selection process, the application process, the interviews, the vetting, and all of the decision-making that went into that. So for a deeper dive, but Annie, do you want to answer that briefly?
Sure. Well, I took it very seriously because, well, obviously this is, an important thing, but also because I had a lot of experience vetting interns, potential interns, because they live with us. So I came up with a questionnaire and I sent it out. And so that showed me, are you going to follow through or not? And then I created a booklet for everybody who was vetted, that went through like our original 10-year plan, the current 10-year plan, everything we did every single month on the farm, stuff about the land, the plot, the plat map, a lot of PR that we had to give background. And then the first meeting we had Kristina and Sam Tenenbaum, who's now on the board that oversees the Commons, and Eduardo Sandoval, one of our former interns, was there. And we met with people, and people asked questions. Most of the time, I didn't really need to say too much, although I talked a lot about the livestock guardian dog. That was the heart of everything. He had to stay. That was his job. And so then we had another vetting day where there were different people that came and helped me. And then I actually, when I met the Ricks, who are the New Farm family, they came in like way too late. And I was really getting tired of just getting tired. I was already moving rocks, moving. Some of the things I moved were amazing. And I started moving. I was like, I got to move. It's going to take me a year. And so anyway, I did let the Rick come. I wasn't that keen about it, but I thought, what the heck, the universe provides, and I don't want to shut the door. And they stood in the living room. They never sat down. I think they were uncomfortable. Well, I know they were now that I know them. But the kids were amazing. They were just blew me away. And they're young. They're 11 and 15. So, but what really happened that cinched the deal for me, and I didn't want to say, oh, this is the family, but I felt like we were pretty close. And that was that Jason stood there in the living room, big, tall guy, and Sarah's short like me. And he said, okay, I want to say this. And he started to talk, and Sarah started to say something. He goes, I know I'm talking for you, but I want to say this. This is your dream, a woman, to be a woman farmer. You had the kids, you wanted to stay home, you farm, you do a part-time job, you do homeschooling, but this is what you are dreaming. Okay, I've had so few men in my life who were supporting me 100% and not trying to take over. That's what we said about this whole process. This is women-led, supported by the men who love and care for them. And that is exactly what Jason was showing me that day in the living room. And so now, I am spending time with them. I have been doing mentoring. I've done some fun things with the kids, which has been lovely. But there was no decision at that point, because it was up to those people sitting in that space that we showed in the trailer. The other couple that made the cut at the end, because we rated everything. That's the other thing, Brian, I should say, is I wasn't too concerned about a lot of the normal things that people might look at, like did they have experience or whatever. I didn't care. My experience sucked at the time I came there, and I was 51 years old. So, I started building a house in my 40s, but when I started being a full-time farmer, I was 51. So don't talk to me about age or ability even. So anyhow, I had this rating system. Are you on time? What's your work ethic? How do you settle disputes? Give me an example, that kind of thing. And then we allotted points to that. And that changed everything for everybody. It took the emotion away. It took the, I don't know the answer away. And it said, yeah, okay. And that gave us 2 families. The other 2 were young couples. And it's unfortunate, but they just weren't ready. But it was brilliant, because at Goat Stock, they were there with the Ricks, and they said, we're not ready. They came and they spent time with everybody, and that really sealed the deal. Now, we could have said, all right, we're going to start over. But I just kept thinking about Jason and his sermon in the living room, and the fact that this was our opportunity to create intergenerational wealth. We had 2 kids who had the work ethic. They came and had a work day with me, each of the families, and we worked hard. We were moving rock, like big rock, and we were building a wall. And the kids had incredible work ethic, lots of talent. And I just thought, we can start over. This is the picture. It may not be the ideal, but it's exactly what can work. And that's what we decided to invest in. And then I cried.
Yeah. Thank you. So in the interest of time and respecting everyone's time, we're going to go ahead and end there, but please feel free to email us with any additional thoughts or questions, and we'd be happy to answer. And thank you again all so much for being part of this work with us. We are so incredibly grateful and honored. Thank you. And thank you all to our panelists for joining us all the way from the UK. Thank you. And Germany.
Thank you for having us.
You're visiting there now. All right. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Thank you all so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Laura. Bye, Nick.